Welcome to Quita to Modern English, Episode 8, your go-to place for all things English, culture, and a little bit of laughter. Before we dive in, just a quick note. While we love talking about love, we're not licensed therapists, counselors, or relationship experts. We're just two introspective women who've been through the ringer and have learned a lot from our mistakes. So take what resonates with you, leave what doesn't, and always seek professional advice when needed, which is pretty much all the time. Okay, great. Now let's talk love.
I love that. Yes, definitely seek a professional if you need that, which is all of us.
Yeah, for real though. So many people are afraid to go to a therapist to talk about, oh, this boy doesn't love me or something. And it's like, well, there's so much underneath that desire that really needs to be addressed.
Yeah, you need to unpack that. I love this word, to unpack something. Like if you have a bunch of emotions and I don't know, you need to bring it all out there and see what do you have going on? What's inside of your psyche?
Yeah, for sure. And boy, do I have a lot of experience.
Yeah, I have a lot of things inside my psyche. This episode we are recording as kind of like a little Valentine's Day episode, but obviously it's about love, which is a important topic any day of the year. The first question that we have a little list of questions for me and Leilah to answer to start us off. The first one is, what's your Valentine's Day hot take? And a hot take is just like a spicy opinion or like a strong opinion that you have about Valentine's Day. My Valentine's Day hot take is that I think that I don't know. I feel like the kind of like Valentine's Day coded gifts have never interested me. And I feel like I often end up not really celebrating Valentine's Day because I feel like I kind of do similar things anyway with my husband other days. So we like sometimes don't really do a big Valentine's Day. That's my hot take. What about you?
Yeah. I like it. Yeah, it's, they say, oh, it's just a commercial way for businesses to make money. But it is so true. They are constantly trying to take your money. And I get it. They want us, some people want a special day to celebrate love or just another excuse to celebrate something. And that's okay. But I think for me, there is like, I have a civil war inside of myself because I don't like contributing to the madness. But at the same time, like I would still like, because it is still a thing that exists in our culture, I still like for my partner to at least do one small thing, like, bring home a rose or bring home some chocolates, but that's it. Like, I'm not talking a huge amount of chocolates. I'm talking like one tiny little bag of chocolates.
Yeah, like a
great.
gesture.
That's fine.
Yeah.
A gesture. Yeah, exactly. And it's just because maybe it has to do with, I don't know, my subconscious doesn't want to feel left out.
Definitely. Yeah.
I don't know.
I think that's real. Yeah. Especially because like we receive so much, is it like subliminal messaging, would you say, about the importance of Valentine's Day and kind of like.
Yeah, it's like social pressure.
Definitely. And I love romance in general. I just find that I kind of do some of the things. I don't know. Like, I feel like I sometimes celebrate love other days of the year and it's not necessarily like concentrated on that day, but I feel I love receiving chocolate any day.
Yeah.
Anyway.
That is exactly. That's true. I think mine just has to do more with like FOMO.
Yeah. I feel that. It's like you're in the office, all the girlies around you have like bouquets. Yeah. You're like, damn.
I know. It's like I roll my eyes, but I'm still like, not important enough. And then you're thinking like, well, wait, why do I feel that way? And it's because of society. Yeah. Okay. But
Definitely.
at the same time, it's like, that's still a thing.
Yeah, I think that maybe I'm also like, I'm coming from a place where I have been like brain rotting on TikTok a lot in the past couple months. And like, there's just so much consumption on there. And it's like, I made my boyfriend a Valentine's Day gift basket, and you see this person spend like $200 on like a bunch of plastic
or 200
shit.
hours making something.
Yeah. And it's like often stuff that like, for example, if it's like a teddy bear holding a heart, or if it's like heart-shaped chocolate or something like specific to Valentine's Day that you're like not going to use again. I feel like
I don't care about that.
I feel like that is, maybe I sounded like from our last episode a negative Nancy. However, I was kind of thinking like in comparison to like these people that, I don't know, do like these huge gift baskets.
Oh yeah, they go all out.
It's
and
not
stuff. Yeah.
like my personal interest, I think, or like for me, it's not necessary.
I have never wanted a teddy bear in my life. I am an adult.
What if it's a really cute one?
I don't know.
No, yeah. I'm not like, I feel like if it happens, it happens, but I'm not like seeking teddy bears. So considering that, what is the best way, in your opinion, to spend Valentine's Day for you?
As long as you're together. I'm like you said, I very much like to do things with my boyfriend all the time. So we're always doing fun and cool things, even if it's just watching some stupid movie.
Yeah, like just spending, for you, it's, I guess this goes back to like the love languages, right? Where it's like, for you, it's like the quality time is like the most important thing.
Yeah, I would say so.
I would say I have kind of like two answers. I would say on one hand, like the same, like what you said. I feel like just spending time together, watching a movie. We are both kind of like foodies, like eating something good, of any type. But also, I also want to say, like, when I was a child, it was common, like in your class, you would bring like these little, like Valentines for everyone in your class. We did that when I was a kid. I feel like for me, that is like peak Valentine's Day. Like you would come to school, and
so nice.
I think because it was like receiving affirmations from other people in the class. And I remember like a boy that I had a crush on would like give one to everyone, but when he like gave one to me, I was like, oh, he also loves me back.
Yeah. Like, some people like, never grow out of
that. Girl, he's giving out Valentines to everyone.
Yes, he is. Hashtag experience. Anyway.
We kind of touched on this before, but what's your love language? Because you mentioned quality time. Would you say that's your main love language, or what is your love language?
I went through a phase where I really believed in that stuff. And since then, I've kind of molded over and been thinking, I think number one, it depends on my mood, and it depends on what has been lacking in the last few months. Like for instance, maybe the serving hasn't been like a thing. And so then I end up taking on more of that responsibility than in previous months. And so in that moment, my love language is going to be acts of service. But it's not always acts of service. Sometimes it's quality time. Sometimes it's this and sometimes it's that. To be honest, I think everybody likes it. I get that sometimes you are more prone to one over the other. But for me, I think it shifts around a lot.
Yeah. I think that makes sense. I also feel like sometimes it can be kind of a cop-out if someone is like, oh, well, I just don't do words of affirmation because that's not how I show love. It's like, It's like, yeah,
That's not my
but
thing.
I don't know. You should still give your partner words of affirmation.
Exactly. It's called compromise. And if your partner asks, like, hey, I feel really unloved, I feel really unnoticed, I feel, whatever. If somebody responds to you as in, well, that's just too bad, or that's just how it is, or, well, I'm not going to change. You either love me the way I am or not at all. Yeah, okay, not at all then. Bye.
Yeah. Is the phrase like love him or leave him or something like that?
For real. It's like, I don't want to be with somebody. I don't want to have a lifelong partner who thinks that they are a certain way and they're not willing to be curious and grow and change. I don't want to be with somebody like that. So bye.
Yeah, definitely. No, for sure. I feel like for me, maybe with love languages, it was helpful to know just that there are multiple ways to show love.
Mhm,
Like, I
yeah.
feel like just knowing that there are multiple ways of showing love was a helpful realization
Yeah.
to me, because I feel like it made me understand more things, like the fact that, I don't know, for example, my father does a lot of acts of service, like just talking about relationships in
Mhm.
general. And like maybe not necessarily like words of affirmation as much as acts of
Yeah.
service and that sort of thing. And so I feel like it kind of like makes you realize certain
Yeah.
things, like, oh, okay, that's this person. And I feel like that happens with a lot of
Yeah.
men in general, just like that they will sometimes show love in ways that seemingly require less vulnerability,
Yes.
like acts of service.
Yeah.
So not to say that they shouldn't do the other ones, but it kind of like, if you are on the receiving end of that, it kind of like contextualizes it for you and makes it make more sense.
Yeah, for sure. Like, for instance, I mean, this is like something that I learned in one of my relationships, where it was kind of like a cycle where the partner was always putting me down and never saying anything kind about me. And so and they would never do like acts of service or whatever. And so I was not emotionally turned on. And so I refused to have sex with this person. And I'm like, how do I say this?
I was like, where are we going?
I was like, how do I say this? And they got really upset about it. And I mean, I understand that's something that can be really triggering in a relationship. But at the same time, maybe look at yourself and say, what am I doing that might be contributing? I'm not saying that it's always going to be you. It's not always going to be that case, but it's worth looking into. Because I hear this so often from women that their partners are treating them like, I don't want to say treating them like crap, but like not really showing love. And because of that, they're not interested. And so then their partner gets mad that they're not interested. And the funny thing is that, and they've done many, many experiences on this. Gottman, do you know who Gottman is?
No.
Okay, John Gottman is one of the leading researchers and has been one of the leading researchers on love and relationships for the past 30 years. And he is incredible. Sometimes they get like just a hint of religy in there, religiously, but and I just ignore it. But the rest of the advice, is incredible. It really is like science-based advice. And basically what they've discovered is that women need emotional intimacy to have physical intimacy. Like, if you want us to have physical intimacy, we need emotional intimacy first. And men need physical intimacy first before they can be emotionally intimate.
I kind of hate that.
I do too. It's this interesting cycle.
Yeah, I was going to actually say also like that intimacy starts before the bedroom. And I feel like sometimes people are like, where's this coming from? Like, you don't want to touch me.
No, that's legit.
And it's like literally what was happening leading up to this moment. I feel like that's
Right.
important.
Like I have a friend that just went through a divorce, and her husband would say things to her that were just so incredibly, I mean, they weren't abusive in a way, you know, I don't want to say that. Like I've dated a sociopath. I know what abuse is. And he wasn't quite crossing the line uh, into that territory, but he was pretty close. And I was like, when you talk to somebody like that and then you ask them like, hey, you want to go have fun? Like, dude, you literally just told me that I'm not contributing enough and all I do is contribute to this house, you know, or I'm not pretty enough. I should wear makeup like somebody else or something, you know, like it's like, and now you want me to be physically intimate with you? Like, yeah, no, I'm good.
Yeah. And I feel like part of that comes from like women always being made to feel a lot of shame about sexuality. So it's like, imagine, I don't know, we're like little turtles and then you're going to like criticize or put someone down. It's like that turtle's going to go right back into its shell. Like, nope. Like I have to protect myself because society hasn't. So, you know, people put up barriers for those reasons.
Yeah, I feel like it's actually like they're literally putting out negative energy and then expecting you not to clam up and be like, yeah, no, like I don't want your negative energy touching me.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Anyway. All right, what's your love language?
I don't know. I feel like I, of course, have all of them. Like it's a spectrum, I guess, of preference. Maybe I feel like I have always done acts of service pretty well in general. Like for people that I love, like I'll do acts of service. And maybe also, what are they? Like, I feel like quality time also.
Yep.
Jorge is really good with words of affirmation and physical touch. And I feel like in our relationship, I've definitely kind of like had those a lot more in my current relationship than in previous relationships, because I feel like I didn't really know how to navigate you know, words of affirmation and physical touch. I also think a lot comes from family, right? Like you see, like I said before, like my family, I saw a lot of like acts of service and quality time as like the main love languages. And so that was like how I knew how to express love.
You know what Jose's love languages? Food.
I love that. That's amazing. Food is love.
I hope he laughs when he hears this.
Okay, I love that.
There's a story behind it, a quick story. I made dinner for his family and it turned out really well. It was awful though, because like the instructions told me that it would be done in 20 minutes. It took it over an hour and like 20 minutes. And it was like 9:30 at night before we could eat. And I felt so bad, but it turned out really good. And we were talking about it and somehow it came up. And I said, you know what they say about the way to a man's heart? And they were like, no. And I was like, the way to a man's heart is through his belly. And they were like, what? I was like, you know, like, food.
They were like trying to understand like anatomically how.
Yeah, exactly. So it was interesting, but anyway.
I love that. And that's a good phrase.
So speaking of, what's the weirdest way you've met a romantic partner?
What's the weirdest way I've met a romantic partner? I feel like, I mean, I met someone on Tinder. Okay, this is weird, maybe just like because I'm weird, but I met this person on Tinder.
I love your weirdness.
A few years ago. This is like so fucking weird. But okay, so I met him on Tinder, and then I at the time was working in AmeriCorps. So I was like doing a volunteer kind of work. I mean, it was for the government, but like we had to complete a certain number of service hours. So I was doing a lot of like nonprofit and charity work events and stuff like that. And there was this event called Kitty Hall for the Humane Society. They threw like this kind of, I don't know, formal ball, and there were a bunch of like wealthy donors that went there for like a silent auction and a dinner. And so basically my friend was working at the Humane Society and I had to volunteer for the day and the night there. And for some reason, instead of just like choosing a different week to have a date with this person, for our first date, I was like, do you want to be my plus one for this like charity, like, I don't know, for this charity event for the Humane Society with like my boss and all of my coworkers there? And so he was like, sure. And so he comes and we were like working at the front desk, kind of like reception. And it was just like really awkward for a first date because a lot of old ladies were like, you're such a beautiful couple. Like they were acting like we had been together for like years. And I was like, I literally don't even know this man's middle name.
That's so funny.
But actually it went surprisingly well. It was like a good test. So obviously we're not together anymore. But
awesome.
I feel like that was my most like memorable kind of like, I don't know, I guess it was meeting someone on Tinder and then the first date. But yeah. What about for you?
I have the weirdest love life.
I knew that. I mostly wrote this question for you because I was like, Leilah's not going to disappoint.
Wow. When I said I have experience, I meant I have experience. Okay, so I would say this is kind of the same way. I have two different ones, but they are both kind of the same catalyst. So both of them I met on the internet. But the first one that I met on the internet, I was already dating somebody else. And so I was legitimately just trying to find people to get as close to full immersion as I possibly could to help with my Spanish skills. And so I got on an app called Tandem. And it was really quite annoying on that app because there are so many men on there that are just looking for a date.
Oh, God.
Yeah. And they'll always start the conversation pretending, like under the pretext that they are just trying to learn English and, you know, just want to be your friend. And then it very quickly escalates and it's just like, okay, this is annoying, block. But somebody messaged me and they were not like that. And so I became friends with them and we practiced our language together for many months. And then when I broke up with my boyfriend at the time, they told me that they were interested. And since we had become friends, they really enjoyed talking to me and they thought I was a cool person, blah, 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 whatever. And wow, I wish I would have blocked him too. No, I'm just kidding. If only I had known. Right?
Honestly, yeah, like imagine like the Leilah from now going back and being like, block him.
Yeah. You know, I mean, of course, I don't regret anything per se because it's led me to where I am now.
We wouldn't have met.
We wouldn't have met. Yeah, that's for sure. And like, I would have never met my boyfriend now, who was amazing. Yeah. So that happened. But we did meet in person for the first time after 6 months of, I guess, I mean, I thought it was online dating because we explicitly said we were going to be exclusive with each other. And so that to me is you're dating. And I say it that way specifically because later he said, oh, yeah, no, we didn't start dating until we at least met in person. And I was like, you agreed that we were dating before. So don't be going back on your word like that. I hate that shit.
he was like, we're not dating, so I can do whatever I want, but like, you're dating me and you're exclusive.
Yep. I was engaged. I was actually engaged to somebody for a while, and like I'm talking like a year. And then somebody was like checking him out one day, and I was being the 19-year-old jerk, you know? No, I was 19. I was 21. And I said, "Oh, like stop checking out my fiance or something." And he looked at me and was like, "What are you talking about? I'm not engaged to you." And I was like, "Whoa, okay, all right." But very shortly after, found out he was cheating with a coworker, so that was fun. Anyway, back to the other one. You see, I heard somebody telling me these stories. I'd be like, "You are not qualified to give me any kind of love advice." But I have to say that I have learned from each and every one of these situations. And so I think I am more qualified because I've had to do a lot of soul searching because of these events, but whatever. Anyway, first internet boyfriend, we met in San Francisco, and I took like a 2-week vacation. I went out there. We stayed in San Francisco. We went down camping for 3 days in Yosemite and 4 days in the Grand Canyon, and then kind of made like a circle back to Las Vegas. And I'm glad I went. It was a lot of fun. But yeah, I gave my sister my coordinates and everything, like my Airbnb, where I was going to be staying, like just in case something were to happen. Like, what if he turns out to be a serial killer?
Yeah, you don't know.
Yeah.
Right. Like the Tinder, what was it? The Tinder swindler?
Yeah, exactly. And my best friend was like, "I know people that live in San Francisco. So like if anything happens, just let me know and I'll contact them, and you can probably stay with them if you need to." And I was like, "Okay, cool. Like, thanks." So there's that. The other one was my current boyfriend. Oddly enough, I met him on Facebook dating, which is the worst app ever.
Oh my God, I didn't know it was Facebook dating that you guys met on. That's so funny.
I know. It's so hilarious. And like, I don't even know how that happened. I think he saw that I said something in my profile about just coming back to the US. And so he was like, "Oh, I used to live in Chile for 8 years." And I was like, "Oh my God, that's cool. Maybe we should hang out." And I never looked back.
I love that. I feel like that's, I don't know, like just actually having something in common with someone is like the first green flag.
Yeah.
Like, just, I feel like a lot of the time on dating apps, people use like the same pickup lines that they use with everyone. Yeah. Like, "Hey, like you're beautiful," or whatever. And you're like, "What are you into?" Sure. That's original.
Yeah. Thanks.
I don't know. Just like, that's kind of boring.
Cool. Red flag. Red flag. It's like if the first thing you say to me is something about the way I look, we're done. We're done. Like, that is so shallow.
Yeah, definitely. No, I feel that. I just find it boring because I'm like, I feel like it's like a copy paste, you know? It's not like, I feel like to be like, "Oh, we both lived in the same country," for like, that opens the door for like genuine connection in a way. Yeah. And I kind of feel like it's different.
Yep. I think we kind of just explained the next one, which is, what's your hot take on dating apps?
My hot take on dating apps. I did meet one of my exes on a dating app, and I feel like if we had met in person, we also would have hit it off. Like, I think we had stuff in common genuinely. Yeah. But I also met several other people on dating apps. Yeah. Where like there are certain things, it's crazy. There was like one person where I feel like we didn't talk. I mean, we had a few conversations before we met in person, and over message, I felt like his way of messaging was pretty like funny, normal, but it was just like in person, I could tell there was no chemistry there. Like, it's like, as soon as you meet in person, you're like, is there chemistry or not? You know? And so like, it's kind of awkward too, because then you kind of like have to sit through that. Like, you kind of know, I mean, in my case, I knew within the first few minutes, you know, like I was like, okay, this is like, I'm not interested in this person romantically. And then you have to like be in a whole date with them.
Oh man.
I don't know. What about you?
I guess honestly, like Jose is the first person that I've ever done it with like that. And obviously it turned out really well. So
That is really lucky,
I
actually, because
know.
I feel like a lot of people have like, I
I mean,
don't
I've
know.
met a lot of people that I kind of like hit it off with, but I think I kind of freaked out and didn't want to go like hang out. I was one of those terrible people that just keeps leading people on, but it's because I was afraid to go meet them in person and get killed. So.
Definitely. I had one weird situation which is that I was talking to someone when I was in college. I used this this like, it's kind of like Tinder, but it's called Her, where it's like just like women,
Oh
I
yeah,
guess.
you contact them first.
Oh yeah, but I was using it on like the women mode because I was kind of tired of dating men.
Oh yeah, I don't blame you. Yeah, absolutely.
So I
Hashtag vote.
so I met one person on there, and it was really a lot because she actually, it turns out, previously went on a date with my roommate who was out of town at the time. And then when we hung out, this is so like, I can't even believe I'm talking about this. Maybe we should like cut it out. But then when we were hanging out, she clearly like was still interested in my roommate.
Oh, no.
And like was asking me questions about them. And I was like,
oh God, that is so awkward.
Yeah, it was really weird. So
I would say awkward, but it doesn't quite fit.
Oh my God.
I knew it was going to come back around.
Yeah. Also, it doesn't
So
quite
funny.
fit. That's what she said. Anyways.
Of course. I love it. It's like the timeless joke. It's good though because nobody quite like uses it anymore, and so it's like actually coming back to the point where it's funny.
It's
again.
Kind of retro. Yeah. It's
yeah, for real. Oh man.
Anyways,
Okay.
should we get into the advice?
Yeah. Let's get to the advice.
Hey there, language learners. If you're enjoying the podcast and want to support what we're doing, you can check out our Patreon at patreon.com/ctmenglish. We offer free episode transcripts to all Patreon members, so you can follow along and learn even more. We also have a $1 paid tier if you want to support the show and get a member shout out in our future episodes. And for just $5 a month, you'll get exclusive bonus content, 3 to 4 pieces of unfiltered audio or video every month that you won't hear anywhere else. So head over to patreon.com/ctmenglish to see all the ways you can support us and get extra content. Thanks so much. So we put out a message.
Wait, I have to preface with this. I would say that through all of my experiences, there was one. I was in a 6-year relationship with a sociopath who was physically and emotionally. Well, I wouldn't say that he was super physically abusive. In fact, I didn't realize until after the relationship was over that there were certain things that he was doing that are considered by the courts as physical violence. I had no idea because he wasn't punching me or hitting me directly. So, especially when it's unwanted and you say like, stop, please stop. And it just keeps going and it's really hard. Anyway, the point is that through that relationship, I found therapy. I have learned a lot from that experience. And so that's why I can say now that my fool ass before has finally come around. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. So that like is a lot of like what you are able to kind of like understand about yourself and like yourself in relationships is like started with those experiences and then like therapy.
Yeah, because at some point you go, okay, why do I keep attracting this type of person? There's like, what's wrong with me? And it turns out, there's nothing wrong with you. It's just that you haven't learned the skills that you need. And no, it's not like they're out there teaching these skills in high school or anywhere, like nobody teaches you these. These are things that you have to seek out and read books. You have to go to therapy to learn these skills. I'm such a big proponent of therapy just because of that, like learning life skills that nobody else teaches you. If anything else, it doesn't mean that you're crazy. It doesn't mean that, you're broken. It just teaches you skills.
Definitely. And like how to deal with your emotions, how to feel your emotions, how to like process I feel like therapy for me really has always been good to help process things.
Yeah, for sure. It helps you emotionally mature.
Definitely.
Yeah. Okay. So back to the advice.
Yeah, we put out a call for submissions for any of you that had questions related to love, heartbreak, awkward situations, or anything else kind of like in this category. So we got a few responses and we're going to do our best to give you our maybe just like opinions, advice related to what you guys were asking about.
Right. Question number 1.
Yeah. Okay. So what's the first question?
How can I get a foreign girlfriend?
Okay. So I feel like this depends on a lot of things, but both of us have had the experience of being someone's foreign girlfriend. So what worked on
Yep. I will say, okay. Number 1, study their culture and make sure that you're okay with the differences, because it's different to read about those differences, and it's completely different thing to live it.
Yeah, definitely. Like, would you feel comfortable if you ended up having to live in her country? Like that's a big thing.
Like for instance, this tends to be a sticking point where a lot of people end up getting in major arguments and it doesn't end up working out. Where, for instance, in the US, we tend to be a lot more independent just because we are, we start driving on our own, going places on our own at 16 years old. And we're basically kicked out of the house at 18. So so we have to grow up really fast. And because of that, like we're very independent. And so it turns out that when you are dating somebody from another culture, sometimes that can be a real hindrance,
I would say, so I'm just thinking of like what else to say about like intercultural relationships or like wanting a partner from another culture. I would also say make sure that in addition to being interested in their culture, you're also genuinely attracted to, interested in, and have things in common with that particular person. Because for instance, it's like I've seen stuff like this happen where sometimes there's like I've seen before, for example, people who fetishize a certain culture or cultural background. And then it's like, if you are really into people of a certain race or background, and then you like have a relationship with someone from that background, like how much of your attraction is to them specifically and not to their background?
Not the idea.
Yeah, because also then it's like, imagine if you kind of fetishize Asian women and then you have a girlfriend from Japan and then you go to Japan, yeah, you might meet a different person there that has the cultural background that you're fetishizing, but also that has like more things in common with you. And you might be disinterested in your partner that you were literally just fetishizing, because you actually, like, behind that, you don't have genuine things in common. So with this question, I would say like it's not that different from actually finding a partner you're interested in. Should be similar to finding someone that you're interested in your native country. But like what Leilah said about like making it work is going to involve different things, if that makes sense.
Yeah. The other thing I was going to say is like learn their language, because that is always the easiest way to break the ice. Is like, hey, like make some joke in their language. And then, a lot of times they're like, oh my God, how do you know that? Like, so it's a good way to break the ice.
Definitely. I was also going to say, I mean, if you are thinking about women from the United States, the bar's not that high, like for the standards with men. So like literally just be like nice and not but not in the creepy way.
So
that's the thing. Yeah.
How do you tell men what is creepy? Because I feel like this is something that I don't know, some of them just don't know.
I feel it's really hard because you have to try to find line of like, I think that, for example, in the United States, sometimes men can be very cold. And so it is nice this is like all very heteronormative what I'm saying, but it's because of the context of the question. And I know the person that asked was a man. So that's why I'm talking like this. But in the United States, a lot of the times men tend to be colder. And so it is nice. I mean, if you're from Latin America or a country where people kind of are warmer, that is very like, I think a lot of women from the US really like that. Like there are a lot of gringas that I've seen in Latin America that have a partner. They like the family culture. They like the fact that their partner's very like emotional and kind. But I would say when it comes to like persistent messaging, really, I would say the best way to make sure that you're not being creepy is to be really empathetic and like observe the other person.
Also, maybe approach it as like it's a friendship, like you're trying to start a friendship. Once it gets like if somebody comes up to me and they're just immediately like, oh my God, your eyes are so beautiful. I'm like, okay, bye.
Yeah, like it's easy to get the ick if someone is not, if someone's not yet seeing you in a romantic way and doesn't really know you, if they're not like currently flirting with you, like it's kind of an ick to just like go the romantic route.
I don't know what it is, but people like strangers who are men who come up to me and they're just like, oh my God, you're beautiful. I'm just immediately like run.
Yeah, no, I think the same. Yeah, definitely. I feel because it's like, I think it's a couple things. One is it's just creepy. Like you want the person to kind of like see you as a person first, it doesn't seem like it would be a lasting relationship either. It's like, oh, you're just noticing my physical appearance. Like you don't even know me.
I was going to say like a really good suggestion if you're in Santiago, is they have like these language exchange meetups. And actually they have these in any kind of big city, but I know specifically in Santiago, there are tons of them, like Santiago Speaks, Spanglish Party, Santiago Spanish and English language exchange. They have almost 9,000 members on Meetup. So
wow.
Yeah, that's a really good place to go.
Definitely. So like, I would say put yourself in like, if you're really interested in this, like put yourself in situations where you would meet multicultural people and then really be open to like getting to know them as a person. Find that
Just
balance.
Be cool. Just be chill.
Be
cool.
chill. You can flirt without being too much,
Exactly.
And that
there's a fine line.
People like mystery. If you leave it all, if you're like giving someone these like really intense like sex eyes and you're like, hey girl, and you're like, right. You're beautiful. It's like, leave something to the imagination, bro. Like,
I think the difference between non-creepy and creepy men, I think non-creepy men are actually watching your reaction to the things that they say. And if you kind of like back off and you kind of like give them like a whoa face, they back off. Okay. And that's the difference. People who are creeps, they either see that and continue behaving that way, or they just don't pay attention to the other person. Maybe they're having a lot of anxiety on their inside, and that's the only thing that they can focus on. I don't know. But whatever it is, they got to figure that out.
Yeah, like don't be in transmit only mode. Like be present and pick up on the vibes. Think like, how would you feel if you were her and someone just like approached you?
Yeah.
You know, like what kind of conversation would make you open up? And what kind of conversation would be like, oh, that's weird.
Be aware. Be aware that the dynamics are like, basically, if you're a woman hitting on another woman, that this doesn't apply so much, I would say. But if you're a man hitting on a woman, be aware that it is our natural instinct to look at you as a predator. So, I mean, am I wrong? Am I wrong? I don't think so. It's not always a conscious thing. It's not always a conscious thing. It's like this subconscious, it's like a primal instinct is, could I run quickly from this person? Like, you know, and it doesn't mean that we're like immediately like, oh, this guy's a creep. No, but think about that when you approach us. Maybe just be a little bit more soft. I'm just saying.
Again, take what you want from this.
Right, exactly. Okay. The other thing I was going to say about it is get some hobbies, because for real, when you go out and you learn new skills, generally speaking, like you will run into higher quality, more emotionally mature people than you will if you're just going to bars and drinking. And I have nothing against that. I have done that many times, and I still like to go to bars and drink. However, I always used to wonder like why I kept getting these crappy quality boyfriends. And it turns out most of them I met them at the bars and we were drinking. So it kind of, there is a correlation.
Definitely.
Sometimes.
Yeah. No, for sure. It's like, oh, why is this hobby drinking beer? Oh, right. I met him because he's always at the bar.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. Okay. What's the next one?
We received a DM which said, my boyfriend is from Germany. I'm Chilean. The plan was for me to move to Germany for 1 year, but I have received a job offer in New York, the job of my dreams. I really love him, and Germany is a place I really would like to go. But also I know that probably this opportunity will not repeat in the future. Okay, Ago, how could I tell him this? Help. Oh my God. Okay. So what do we think?
This is what I think. Dear Germany, I am an Enneagram 4, literally the hopeless romantic. Nobody, and I mean nobody, can tell you what the right thing to do is in this situation for you. That being said, I have twice moved far away for a man. The first time, I will just skip to the end. 8 months after moving to Phoenix, Arizona, which is on the other side of the United States, by the way, he was cheating on me with a coworker. The second man, I didn't just move across the big old country of the US of A. I moved to the completely opposite hemisphere, only to find out that person I thought was more, quote unquote, emotionally mature than anyone I had ever met was actually just extremely quiet and reserved as hell. Am I wrong, Maggie?
No, he was super quiet. I was like, hello.
Yeah, exactly.
Just kidding.
And because of that, all of my fears came true when it came to him and me. But that being said, I don't regret anything because I learned another language really well. I have some of the best memories of my life that happened in Chile. I got to explore another culture, another country. The landscape is absolutely incredible. So it wasn't a waste for me, but I definitely think that if it's between a potential thing, relationships it's never a guaranteed thing. So I also was a classical musician for my entire life, ever since I was 6 years old. And then when the pandemic hit, it all came crashing down, and I had to change careers. And I've been trying to change careers ever since. And it's very, very, very hard out there in this world right now, as far as finding good quality jobs and work. And I really, really want to stress that if you have the ability to do something that you love and make enough money to have a sustainable career, that is way, way more important than any man out there. And that's I'm serious. If that man loves you, he and you will find a way to make it work. Okay? But you have to take care of yourself and make sure that you're okay first.
Yeah, no, for sure. I do. Yeah, I feel like it's interesting too, because it's like it is still possible to make it work in this situation in a long distance, kind of context.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, people do it all the time.
Both of us have been in long distance relationships.
Yeah, I was in a long distance for 4 years.
Yeah, that's a long time.
Well, it's 2 years with one person, 2 years with another, but yeah.
I would say, so I know that this seems kind of like, oh my God, stressful, and it kind of is a big decision. But I will say the good news is that both of these situations are awesome. It's like you're going to go live abroad in Germany and, be with your boyfriend, also just like be in Germany, which would be awesome.
Yeah,
I'm sure, to live there. And then the other option to live in New York and do your career. Like both of these are really great, situations.
And if you can make it work where you can fit both of those things at the same time, that's even better. But
I also wonder, it seems like just based on how the message is written, how could I tell him this? Maybe you have some fear about talking to him about the situation. I would say that also, just because it is your career, I wouldn't feel 100% responsible for the maintaining of the relationship.
Absolutely.
I feel like if you do talk to him, there is also the possibility he could visit you. He might even I feel like it shouldn't be all, this kind of decision shouldn't be all on you. And I think a lot of the times women kind of are used to taking on all of the responsibility, making everything work, making everyone happy. Maybe I just find a solution. So then, everything's okay and he doesn't have to worry about it. But yeah, I would say maybe it's a good test also for your relationship to bring this up to him and have the difficult conversation and be like, look, I think this is the job of my dreams. And honestly, if I were on the receiving end of that conversation, I feel that I would do what I could to get my partner to go do the job in New York, to be honest.
Exactly. And if they have a really negative reaction in a way, then you don't want to be with that person anyway. If they're really rude about it and they turn it around on you or whatever, I'm not saying that that's going to happen, but if that were the case, that's it's kind of like a blessing, because you're like, okay, thank you for showing me who you really are. And no, thank you. Bye.
Yeah, exactly. It would be like good riddance situation. But yeah, I would give yourself the grace that you would give you. I don't know if you're following, that you would give you if you were him.
Yeah.
If you were him and he was going to come live with you in Chile. But then he was like, actually, I got this awesome job in New York. Do you think we could try to make it long distance for the time being? I just want to shoot my shot and see if, like, with my career, it does, nothing is we're all young, right? Nothing's permanent. Even if we're not, like, nothing's permanent. So I feel that maybe in that position, you also would try to be kind of like open to hearing what he had to say.
Also, I will say one of the final like nail in the coffin that made me decide to move to Chile, to be with this person. Well, first of all, my therapist asked me, like, are you moving to this country just to be with this person? Like, is that the sole and utter reason why you are doing it? And I said, no, I've always wanted to move to another country. I've always wanted to live in another culture and learn another foreign language. So there are those other aspects of it that, could be a benefit to doing this. And then she told me, well, here's the thing. And it sounds weird at first, but she said, there aren't necessarily any wrong decisions when it comes to things like these. There are only wrong reactions to what comes to pass. So, for instance, if one door closes, you can sit there and stare at that door and say, like, screw you, door, why did you close on me? And be really angry that it didn't work out. Or you can look at the situation and say, man, I learned a lot from that. And, you made that choice and, it was the best thing for you in that moment. That's what you wanted in the moment. And that's kind of how it is. I mean,
Definitely. Yeah. And I feel part of you, I mean, we all do this. Part of you might, no matter what decision you make, be like, what would have happened in that alternate reality that I was in Germany, or in that alternate reality that I was in New York? And you know what? Somewhere out there in the universe, there is a alternate dimension where you are living the other reality.
I knew it.
At the same time.
Actually,
and that's okay.
Oh my God.
Choose which one. Choose what. I'm sure somewhere deep down, which reality you slightly prefer for this version of the game.
Yeah. I will say, like, just make sure that you're not trying to write some romance novel in your life, because, we don't live in Hollywood. So make sure that if you do move to Germany, maybe try to find other reasons to be there as well.
I remember actually one of my husband's ex-coworkers moved to the Netherlands for a man. And I mean, to be honest, I don't know. It doesn't specify in this message how long she's been with her boyfriend. So it could be that they are like really long term. But in this case, my husband's ex-coworker like had not been with him for very long, and they did not work out. Like, she got there. It wasn't how they thought it would be. He was kind of like not the way she thought he would be. They end up not being together anymore, even though she moved there for him. But then she continued to like live her best life in the Netherlands and like posted a bunch of stuff on Instagram, like traveling. So
that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to stay in Chile.
Yeah. So like, no matter what, I feel like that it's easy to find other reasons as well to go to Germany.
Can you do your career in Germany? I do have a friend that went and followed his girlfriend to Germany, and they lived there for 2 years, I think he said, and they didn't work out. But he said, I don't regret it at all. I had so much fun. So there you go.
Definitely.
We're not giving you any direct answers.
Yeah, we're literally like, actually both are awesome. But I feel like in the way that should give a little bit of peace though, right? Maybe this is one for a coin flip. Yeah. No, I think first you should talk. I think that instead of like you coming up with the solution and then talking to him, maybe it makes sense to like approach him with how you're feeling, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that's a really good way to introduce things like, man, I've been offered this opportunity and this is how I feel about it. Yeah.
Yeah. You don't have to like go further don't like even go the extra steps. Just be like, these are my feelings. What's your reaction?
Right, exactly. All right. Is that all? Is that You have anything else?
That's all I had to say about that one. Thank you so much for writing in, though. I feel like that was a really good one to mention.
That was a good one. What's this one? I have one about when to walk away. Oh, buddy.
Yeah. Okay. Did you want to do that one?
Let's see. This caller says, how do you know this caller?
This writer.
This person says, how do you know when to walk away from something? I used to always date people who would text me back really infrequently or flake on me. But when we were together, things were really nice. So how do you know when to just stop texting them back first? Because when we did go out, it was great. It was just waiting by the phone in the meantime that sucked. Well, I do have to say this. This person has really good English.
This was one of my friends.
Wait. Are they English second language? Oh.
No. This was just one of my friends. Because we need another. We had a couple, but I was like, we need another good one. And I felt like this was a good one.
Oh my God. I was like, this person is talking very natively.
I'm curious. Wait, I think that this is like a good exercise of like, what about it were you like, oh, this seems like a native speaker? Like, what about this text made you think that?
I don't know. I will say it was like, mostly it was like at the end, like in the meantime, that sucked. I don't know.
Yeah. Definitely. It was like the word choice, like to flake on me. That sucked.
Yeah, to flake on. Yeah.
When we did go out, it was great. Yeah, I feel like these are some of the things here that I don't necessarily hear English learners
it's not
using.
As like textbook English.
Yeah, so anyways.
Do you want to give your opinion first, or do you want me to go?
Yeah, I'll give my opinion. I feel like I've definitely been in this situation before of like trying to play it cool when I liked someone. Just because I was like wanted them to like me. And sometimes it happens a lot, especially in situations where like one person might be a little bit more on the avoidant side of the spectrum. And it kind of, for me personally, that sometimes I don't feel like I'm an anxiously attached person to everyone, but I think in particular when someone is on the avoidance side of the spectrum, it makes me kind of like feel anxious of wanting them to like me. I think I'm getting better at this, but I do feel like this has been the case for me. And so, yeah, it's hard because I feel that something that's good to keep in mind is like, you deserve to be loved for your authentic self. And if you change that to look cool or to look different from how that is, it's like you're putting a different self out into the world and wanting someone to love that person, right? So that's not really sustainable. And also, that's not what you deserve. Like, you deserve to find someone based on who you really are, you know? And I think that is like a really transformative, beautiful love that a lot of people find, where it's like, oh, this is the one. And like, I think obviously people overuse that and people might use it not always when it's true. But I think that when people do, like when you have that friend that always dated kind of like crappy people or was always in like really tumultuous relationships, and then they find themselves
Maggie,
in that.
I'm that friend. I am that friend.
And then I literally wasn't trying to like be passive aggressive. I was just thinking, because I'm like, I feel like this about so many people. And then you notice them and it's like, oh, wow, I feel like I'm that friend. Like until I met my husband, it's like I was either in relationships where the other person was kind of avoidant and I was feeling anxious, waiting for them to talk to me, or it was unbalanced in the other way where like they were kind of, pursuing me more than I wanted them to. And it kind of gave me the ick. And I feel like that was kind of it wasn't every relationship I've had, but I do feel like there's been like that kind of attachment balance, which a lot of us need to work on in general, just because it's like stuff that comes from your family, your upbringing, etc.
And if you don't know about the attachment theory, you really should look into it. Like, this goes for everybody, because it is extremely relevant to any relationship, whether it be between you and your mother, you and your brother, your sister, whoever it is, or a romantic partner. You're going to either avoid things like conflict, or you're going to be anxious and sitting there going, oh my God, I hope we're okay. And
definitely. Yeah. Or some people have the mixed, like what I'm even describing. I forget what it's called, like disorganized attachment style.
Mm-hmm, that's me.
Where it's like you feel kind of like anxious when the other person's avoiding you. And then if they pursue you, you feel avoided kind of thing. Yeah. What are your thoughts about this one?
This is a great one for me to answer, because I am a chronic overthinker, and I'm definitely disorganized, anxious. That's my attachment style. And I have stayed in every relationship way past its expiration. So the reason for that is because I grew up a fundamentalist Southern independent Baptist, which is like in Chile, they say los canutos. Well, this is like los canutos on crack. I mean, steroids. I mean, canutos times 2. I'm not kidding. So I was ingrained with the philosophy that once you choose to be with somebody, you do everything you possibly can to make it work. And so these kinds of culty religions tend to take things to the extremes, and often they don't teach you how to set proper boundaries and how to do what is best for you and your life. They teach you that that's very selfish, and it comes from, not to be super feministy, haha, don't care. It comes from the patriarchy and telling women that God wants you to be a certain way. So anyway, I can tell you right now, what is not good for your life is to be waiting around for somebody else to acknowledge your existence. And your gut already knows the answer. You don't need us to tell you that. You do not need us to tell you that, because even you asking this question tells me that your gut already knows. So stop looking outward for the answer, because the answer is inside of you already. You know, you got it. You're capable of making the correct observations. You are completely capable, and you're worthy of being able to say, you know what? I don't want to be treated like that. I'm not a toy that you can just pick up and play with and then walk away from. Oh, hell no.
Definitely. It's not about his potential. It's about how he makes you feel. Like that, one of the most important things in a relationship is like, how do you feel? Like literally just like, if you notice that you're always anxious, that's the life that you're choosing with that partner. You're choosing that version of yourself. Do you like the version of yourself that you are when you're with that person?
Oh, I love that. I actually just posted that as a story on my Instagram today.
Really? I'm like plagiarizing your Instagram story.
No, it's hilarious, because I put that up there, and then I had a little picture of me and Jose.
I think actually maybe that was in my subconscious, because now that you're saying it, I like do remember seeing your story. That's hilarious.
So funny. But, okay, there's one thing that I wanted to say. It's like, here's some super, super effective advice that has been said to me so many times. And every single time it kind of like stabs me in the heart a little bit, but it's in a good way. Okay. So pretend that person is someone else who is dating your best friend. What advice would you give her or them?
That's good. Yeah. I feel that way in general. Sometimes we're like so inside of the situation that we like can't clearly see.
We're blinded by our emotions.
It's like, if I'm just a little bit more chill, he'll love me and give me that unconditional love that I'm seeking, you know? And then you're like, you see your friend and you're like, girl.
Yeah, you're like, walk away, walk away. And it's like, wait a second. If I would tell my friend to walk away, I should probably walk away.
No, for sure. I also feel like I was thinking, I've seen this somewhere on the interwebs. When you really like someone, sometimes it's not even about that person. Sometimes it's yourself. Like, it's like what you're projecting onto that person is actually yourself. So if you go out with this guy, right, and you're like always having a great time, it's so funny, you're always laughing, and then like later on you're feeling like really anxious waiting next to the phone and he's not contacting you back, it's like maybe the person who's making these situations so enjoyable and is causing the laughter and is the one telling the jokes is actually you. You know, like maybe you're the good time and you need to find someone that recognizes that.
Yeah, it's interesting because I am anxious attachment style. And so I have been that person in the past, and I try so hard to be like, I need to busy myself doing other things so that I'm not thinking about this person all the time. And I don't know what it is, but with Jose, I have only been like that once, and it was in the beginning of our relationship. And I got really anxious because he wasn't texting me back like for a while. And then I was just like, okay, this is my thing. Like at this point, this is my thing. And that was just my situation. But ever since then, like, I don't have to ask or beg for attention.
Yeah.
I don't want to beg for love.
I think it comes from just because I'm thinking of like a lot of the situations where I have felt this way. I think were at a time in my life where I didn't have so much internal, intrinsic self-validation. And so I was seeking that on the outside.
I also think that, like with Jose, the difference is that I've learned that like if you can't communicate, if you're afraid to communicate these things, then it's a good sign that you shouldn't be with that person and you're not compatible with them. Because in this case, I believe that I had said something about it and been like, hey, this is how I'm feeling. It has nothing to do with you, but like this is how I'm feeling. And when you present it in that way, it tends to be received a lot better.
Definitely. Yeah. So this is the last one. It says, I have a big fat crush on my friend, but I'm afraid to tell them or act on it because I don't want to ruin the friendship.
Well, I am an open book. I have no filters. So let's put it this way. If it were me and they were single, I would maybe say something. Say it in a way that's like kind of a joke and then see how they take it. And then, then you'll have your answer and it's still cool.
Okay, that's a good one. Like what kind of joke? You know, I'm kind of into you.
Yeah, like I don't know why that girl wouldn't want to go out with you. You're handsome.
Yeah, kind of like give them a little compliment. Test the waters.
Yeah, for sure. Test the waters. That's a good way to put it.
I would say do not do something if it's a friend and you already have a relationship with this person with like friend boundaries. You know, I would not like do something physical to test the waters. I would definitely like say something. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Like maintain your friend boundaries for the time being until the waters are tested and until you get like the green light.
Yeah, because like testing the waters emotionally, you can come back from. Testing the waters physically, you cannot come back from.
Yeah, nothing is like worse than, I don't know if this has happened to, it's happened to me a couple times. You're like talking to someone that is like an acquaintance or a friend at a part. This happened to me when I was much younger. So, but like talking to someone that is just like a friend or acquaintance, and then in mid conversation, they kiss you and you're like, oh God, no, that was not what I wanted out of this interaction. Okay. Yeah, don't be that person. Don't be that person.
Exactly. So there it is. There's your answer. Thanks to everybody for writing in. This was fun.
Yeah, I hope that you got something out of our advice and let us know what you thought about it. Maybe some of the other people listening also have had situations like these or have advice for the people that wrote it. So definitely let us know.
Write it up. Disclaimer too. Just to be clear, we are not judging you in any way. It's simply our experience that you're hearing.
But yeah, we were just like talking about if it were us and our opinions about it. So also, I've definitely been in like really questionable situations. No judgment to any of these people.
I mean, hello, I dated a sociopath for 6 years, so that's cool. And that's
no judgment.
Not pop psychology sociopath. That is like a bona fide
diagnosis. Yeah.
Yes.
Lord.
And just remember, practice doesn't make perfect. Intentional and mindful practice makes progress. And that is way more important.